I am excited to be collaborating with the Horniman Museum and Gardens today to discuss a popular print from 19th century India in Mapp's collection and a sculpture in the Horniman's collection. Both depict Kali, a powerful goddess who has captured the awe, fear, and devotion of generations over many centuries. Despite Kali's fearsome exterior, there's something unique about this complex goddess that has inspired numerous depictions of her, from the pre-modern to the contemporary.
My name is J.C. Niala, and I'm the acting keeper for anthropology at the Horniman Museum and Gardens. I'm delighted to be talking about an idol that to me is an incredible symbol of female power. We have in the Indian collections here in the Horniman a paper mache figure of Kali either walking or dancing on Shiva, who is impassively lying on his back. Kali is accompanied by a striped wild animal, likely a tiger, and the severed head of a demon in one hand and a curved sword in another. Another hand is cupped and facing upwards, while a fourth hand is raised either in a blessing or the mudra for fearlessness.
On this side, we have a print from the Calcutta Art Studio, one of the earliest commercial presses established in 1878. To the left, we see Kali standing on Shiva's supine body, and to the right, we see Tara, who is also astride Shiva and shares many similarities with Kali. Kali and Tara are two of the most prominent Mahavidyas, a group of 10 goddesses who are tantric manifestations of the great goddess Mahadevi. Although there are certain similarities between the sculpture and print, such as the girdle of hands, the necklace of severed heads, the gestures that Kali's hands make, and the attributes that she holds, I'd like to draw your attention to some of the key differences. Whereas Kali is usually described as dark or black in color, here we see her rendered in blue. Her lolling tongue is now smaller in size, and she is seen standing over not one, but two manifestations of Shiva. And in contrast to the emaciated body in the sculpture, Kali is depicted with curves and full breasts. This shift in Kali's depiction can be traced to print culture at the time, which combined influences from Victorian neoclassicism and European portraiture to depict Indian subjects.
In his 2016 award-winning docudrama film entitled Kali, many of the devotees the filmmaker Subrata Sen interviewed talked about a devotion out of fear of Kali's tremendous power. So on the one hand, she literally strikes the fear of God in man, but on the other hand, in both the idol and in the chromolithograph, she is depicted with a mudra that could be interpreted in more than one way, either showing her fearlessness or possibly indicating that one should not be afraid. This evocation of fear is real. Kali carried out a job that no other god was powerful enough for, and in both pieces she is clothed in her power. The garlands and scant garments that barely cover her womanhood are the remnants of her victims. However, her power is expressed differently in the idol and in the chromolithograph. In the idol, she's stepping on Shiva, and it is said that there was no way to stop her rampage. She was killing a monster who was intent on destroying the world, apart from through shame. If that interpretation is believed, then her tongue is hanging out in shame because she's inadvertently stepping on Shiva. In any event, the world was saved and her frenzied celebration stopped. The chromolithograph tells a different story, one which is more favored by tantric devotees and depicts two Shivas, one of whom is in sexual union with Kali in the dominant position.
There are some Hindu scriptures that deem women as subordinate to men, but Kali appears to overturn some of these norms, as she is both fierce and independent. Though both the sculpture and print feature Kali and Shiva, this print depicts Kali in sexual union with Shiva, an iconography that we also see in numerous other miniature paintings and prints. This union signals to Kali's Shakti, the divine feminine force that creates and sustains life. Without Kali's intervention, Shiva would remain inert, testifying to the goddess's great power. Another aspect of Kali that has fascinated many scholars is the presence of her lolling tongue. Kali's tongue takes on many meanings in tantric texts. It is associated with the consumption of blood from sacrifice, and it is also seen as something that incites horror. In this print, however, her tongue could suggest arousal and passion, seems to have a more erotic connotation as opposed to the idea of shame that we might associate with the sculpture.
Kali is a symbol that encapsulates paradoxes. As Vrinda Dalmia wrote, Kali depicts passivity, aggressiveness, traditionality, and conventionality, beautiful, grotesque, tender, terrifying. These paradoxes extend to the people who are Kali devotees in the way that they express their love for her, by turns listing her faults as they pray to her, while at the same time seeking redemption through her. Subrata Sen in his film highlights another of these paradoxes, which can be seen in the color differences in Kali, the idol, where she is dark and black, and the chromolithograph, where she is light and blue. Sen's film followed the journeys of dark-skinned Bengali women who come from communities where Kali is revered, and yet they face discrimination because of the color of their skin.
Kali's duality manifests in her iconography as well. While her left hands, which are in the Abhaya and Varada Mudra, showcase her more benevolent side. Her right hands, which brandish a sword and hold a severed head, highlight her fearsome attributes. But even her more destructive aspects have dual meanings. The severed head that she holds, for example, represents the human ego that she helps her followers overcome. Given Kali's multifaceted nature, her invocation was not restricted to the religious sphere. Kali was also seen as a symbol of resistance against British colonial rule. Another print of Kali, standing on Shiva's corpse, advertises the sale of Kali cigarettes. The consumption of these cigarettes, as the text suggests, was seen as patriotic duty and a way to support the nationalist movement. But, as scholar Christopher Pinney has pointed out, if you look closer at the decapitated heads that form her necklace, they actually seem to resemble the faces of British or European men. Interestingly, we also have a painting in Mapp's collection, which is quite similar in imagery, especially in terms of the severed heads, which again resemble the faces of European men. These chromolithographs, which circulated in bazaars or markets, helped create a Hindu nationalist identity. While British colonial officers saw Kali as both frightening and threatening, Indian nationalists played on this fear and used her as a means to undermine colonialism.
The presence of this idol in the Horniman Museum, for me, strikes up another paradox. Frederick Horniman, the museum's founder, purchased the papier-mâché figure in 1894 during a 3-month tour of India and Sri Lanka. Was it made for tourists, or was it a ritual object? If it was not a tourist item, then 1¼ centuries later, should it be in a museum? And if it is, what does that mean? The idol's presence in the Horniman echoes the multiple interpretations that both the idol and the chromolithograph have. One aspect remains unquestioned: the unfathomable ability Kali has to both begin life and to end it.
There is no one side to Kali. Her imagery continues to endure even today in the works of contemporary female artists like Princess P, who have used the goddess to express strength and resistance in the face of adversity. Both the print and the sculpture testify to Kali as an indomitable force of nature, as a goddess who defies social convention and transcends all dualities.